Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Alex. Hello, all of our friends who are here for the live discussion of The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. Very excited to be here. Yes, I have a copy of my copy too. Woot woot. So excited to be here again with my fantastic friend, Alex, to discuss this book. And I want to say that for anyone who happens to catch this on the replay, thank you so much for watching it. We appreciate that. Let us know if you watch it on the replay and what your thoughts were, and give us some comments so that we can get some feedback. We'd like to know how much people enjoy or not our books that we're picking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It helps make informed decisions for the future for what
Yes,
we
it
pick.
does. So, Alex, how have you been?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. Thank you, Kat.
Okay.
I waited until the last freaking minute, I'm telling you, to read this book. I finished this yesterday for anybody who wants to know. So I really was like down to the wire, and Kat was so kind about it. She let me wait too long to send my questions that we're going to go over today. So
Yeah, and
it
I
was
couldn't
good.
send any questions to Alex because I was like, I do not want to
Spoilers.
send anything and spoil something, because then I would like put an idea in her head. But yeah, so we are talking The Winter People. This has been a book that's been on my shelf for a couple of years, so I was very excited and glad that, because Alex and I come up with lists of books that we would like to read, and we kind of share with one another. And then it's sort of like, well, these are the ones that I'm kind of really kind of looking for and I think would fit great here. What do you think? And so it was nice that, Alex and I kind of felt like this would be a good winter read, a good way to start off our second season of the Book Wyrm Club.
Yes.
So,
this is my
anyway.
last official winter read, by the way. I'm
Oh.
going to start moving into spring. So this was a really good note to end on, I think,
Yes,
for
I
winter.
agree. So, Alex, you want to give us a little bit of a synopsis of The Winter People?
Yeah, absolutely. So, The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon is the story of Sarah Harrison Shea, who lives in her childhood home with her husband Martin in the early 1900s. And Sarah has a daughter named Gertie, who is like her most beloved person in the whole world. She just loves her daughter. And there's an unfortunate accident that happens at the farm that results in the death of her daughter. And it kind of sparks this whole story of going back and forth between Sarah's time and the present time with the family that currently lives in the same house as Sarah. And those characters are named Ruthie and her little sister Fawn and their mother Alice. And Alice goes missing one day in the woods. And so the daughters have to try to figure out what happened to her by actually going through Sarah's old diary. Which has become quite a local legend about what happened to her. So it's a really good back and forth between past and present.
Yes.
Was that sufficient?
That
Anything
was
you want to throw in?
I loved it. It was perfect. Wonderful. Okay, so we are going to check in to see who's here first before we dive into, we usually like to say what our ratings, are at the top of the, discussion, and then kind of see if maybe we're swayed either way. Sometimes when you have a very good discussion about a book, it can sometimes do that, whether it's positive or negative, honestly.
I had about a half a point I'm teetering on right now. So I'm curious how I'll end it after this, because I could tell you where I'm sitting now.
Okay, so we have Swank in the house. Hello. And she's saying happy Strawberry Day and happy Polar Bear Day. That is nice. Those are two things that I absolutely like a lot. Strawberries and polar bears. And hello, Faye. Phew. I just this minute finished reading. I'm excited.
Good job, Faye. Excellent job.
And Alex wasn't even invited to the show. Well, she was invited, but somebody forgot to send the actual link. Alex and I have actually, I would honestly say we're probably on the same, in the same type of situation right now. Like we're kind of behind on things,
Yeah, very
and
chaotic.
chaotic. And so that's the kind of things that happen. You forget to send your friend the link to actually be. And I was just like, do. I even text Alex, I'm here if you ever want to pop on or whatever. Hello, Halko. Halko actually read this prior to this. So,
Oh,
and this
very
was
nice.
what he enjoyed. So it's nice that he's come in to support us. Hello, Angel. Eek, I still have 40 pages left.
Oh no.
Because we are going to be talking spoilers,
Yeah.
Angel. Well, I guess the beginning part you'll be okay, but as we get into the meat and potatoes of it, you might want to like cover your ears or turn us off or go
Come
back,
back later.
come back later, that's for sure. Yeah, Swank is laughing at us, me specifically. Ooh, Halko finished this morning, but it was a reread for you, I thought, Halko. Heidi said, hello, bookworms.
Hi,
Now, Heidi did
Heidi.
not read this, but she's supporting us.
Thank
I
you,
mean,
Heidi.
round of applause for
Yeah.
Heidi for being such a supportive person. And Jamie's here. Hello. And Angela.
Angela, hello.
Angela is now Angela Grant, just to let you know. That's her
Oh,
Jurassic Park name. Just
oh, I love it.
just saying.
That's wonderful.
Travis has crowned her that because Angela has never seen Jurassic Park. And
Oh no.
he's trying hard to get her to watch it.
Oh, I'll be bringing that up tomorrow.
And Rebecca's here.
Hey,
Hello,
Rebecca.
Rebecca. She's telling everyone hello. Please make sure to boop the like button. Make sure to hydrate. Thank you, Swank. We appreciate you very, very much. I have some tea. I have my pumpkin spice tea. I rated Target's shelf when they put it on clearance. I'm like, let me have pumpkin spice all year. And Jasmine's here. Yay. Hey. And Keaton's in the house. Hi, bookworms. Hello, Keaton. Thank you for supporting us. I first read it in 2020 and I thought it was just decent. I enjoyed it more this time around.
Oh, good.
I like that.
That's
Love
great.
that. Okay, so I'm going to let you go ahead and tell us where you're teetering before I
Okay.
reveal my score.
Okay. So right now I'm sitting at a solid 4 for this book. And the reason I feel that way is because I'm getting, not in terms of the story, but in terms of the way that this book made me feel, was kind of a similar vibe to Devolution. And Devolution, I gave a 4. And you know me, a 4 to me is like, that's a really good rating for a book. It just means that I would recommend it to people, but I wouldn't necessarily reread it. And I'm not looking at this as having like a ton of reread value, but I would tell people it's fun. So
Right.
that's the thing, is I was kind of like, maybe it could be a 4.5, but I right now I'm sitting at a 4.
Yes, well, we are in agreement on that
Okay.
because I have it down as a 4. And even with me getting my notes together and my thoughts together, going over the questions, it didn't waver. So I would say this is a solid 4 for me. Now, unless someone brings something in really earth shattering
Yeah.
that would possibly sway me in some way to bump it up some, it's a solid 4. It is a book that I could possibly see myself rereading like many, many years from now, kind of thing.
Okay.
Possibly, but who knows? You know what I'm saying? It's I don't
Yeah.
know. Books that I generally reread, it's generally because there's some kind of comfort value to it, or that it's
Yep.
been so long, like 20 years, that I'm like, something's happening and somebody's reading it, so let me read it too,
Yes.
and then kind of revisit. But it wouldn't be something I would pick up like anytime in the near future, the next couple of years. Because I do feel like a book like this kind of sticks with you for a little bit.
Yes.
That if like a year from now somebody wanted to talk to me about it, I might not know all the tiny, tiny details, but I would know the gist of it enough that I could have a conversation about it.
I completely
If
agree.
that makes sense to you. But
It
yeah, it's a
does.
4 for me. There's a lot that I really loved about it. I love the writing, the setting, uh, most of the characters. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
say most of the
most.
characters. But it just it's just, to me, ratings, the thing about a rating is the impact that it has on me for enjoyment.
Yes.
Whether it's just, or if I have some kind of emotional connection or something, you know.
I,
So yeah.
I'm weird about like mystery books, I guess, because it's very difficult for me to give a mystery a 5 because by the nature of the mystery, unless I somehow forget what happened, I'm gonna know when I reread it like who did it, right? And I think that's probably a flaw of me more than the flaw of the book because the one thing I do want to give credit for is I really like the writing.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
genuinely thought that was great. So for, anybody else's perspective, if they were like, I gave this 5 because it was just really well written, I'd be like completely valid.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So and people should definitely put that. I don't think we said that, but put your
Yes.
rating in the comments.
Please put your ratings in the comments. We'd love to know. And if you're teetering, if maybe after this discussion you might change your mind about it. Yeah, I definitely think I enjoy her writing style, and it
Mhm.
will definitely pick up something else by her in the future. Um, just because I liked it. I think she's kept me engaged the entire time.
Mhm.
So we have Leslie here. Hello, Leslie. Faye gave it 4 stars too. Angela rated as 4 stars several weeks ago on Goodreads. Nice. I'm somewhere between 4 and 4.5 as well. That's Jamie. So, okay, so we'll see what happens at the end. We'll have to revisit this question at the end.
Okay.
Alicia says, I'm leaning towards 4 as well. However, I really didn't like the ending, and that made it feel like a 3.5 by the end. Okay, so Alicia may be a person that doesn't like an open-ended ending where you have to kind of decide. I don't mind it if I feel like I have enough information or substance or whatever to kind of make a good enough ending in my mind that I feel settled with. There have
Mhm.
been books and movies that I'm just like, well, this seemed kind of lazy to me.
Oh, yeah. I
Like,
would
why
not
did you do
describe
that?
this as lazy.
No, I would not. I would
But I
not.
could see
So,
why some people would find it distasteful. So,
yeah,
because there are certain things about it, I'm looking forward to talking about that because there's certain
yeah.
parts about it that just make you go, oh.
Well, yeah, and it impacts more than one person. So
Yes.
that's the other thing too. There's a lot of open, it's open, and there's one other thing I want to talk about. I think I know who it is, but I'm kind of like, could it possibly be something else? I don't know. Maybe I'm like overanalyzing that, but when we get there. Jasmine said, I think I gave it 4. It definitely creeped me out. Yes,
Nice.
especially for me, Jasmine, the closet. I'm really glad I do
Ah.
not have a closet in my actual bedroom. I'm just going to say,
Yeah.
because I have a thing with closets being ajar,
Me
doors
too.
being, it
Me
freaks me
too.
out.
Yes.
Like, if I know that the door is ajar, I have to close it. I'm also
Yep.
like that with dresser drawers. It
Mhm.
can't have any, it bugs me.
No, I
Like
get
if my
that.
husband takes a sock out and somehow a sock gets stuck, and I'm like, something could come out of that drawer.
I understand. I had sleep paralysis exactly one time, and that was a horrifying experience. And part of the thing I experienced was the door moving, even though it didn't actually move. But like my brain tricked me into thinking it was. It was horrible. So no, I ever since I was a kid, I always had to sleep with my closet door shut all
Well,
the
I am
way. I
so
don't like it being
glad that I
open.
am not the only person,
No,
because I'm just like,
no, nope.
especially after all the stuff that takes place in the closet.
Yes.
I like the ending, but a couple other things annoyed me. And Rebecca says 5 stars. It kept me engaged to keep reading. I love that.
Woohoo.
Love that. Yay. And I'm fine with open ending, but it kind of wrapped up too neatly and it was unsatisfying. Okay, well, that it does raise a lot of questions. There's one part about the ending that I'm thinking about that's, I don't know. I might be doing a stretch, but for me it's the ending that is potentially pushing me over 4 stars. Ooh.
Okay.
Okay. And that's amazing. You have one person that the ending was not satisfying and another that it's, pushing over the limit. I love that we can have that different perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, oh my God, the closet was creepy. Welcome to Dead House scarred me as a kid. I can't have the door open at all. That's amazing.
Hey, it's
That is
okay. We're
amazing.
there with you, Jasmine. No, no
Yeah,
judgment
and
at
look,
all.
even my bedroom door can't, like, it has to be fully closed. Like, it can't be
Oh,
like where it's not closed all the way.
okay.
And what's weird is growing up, we always had our bedroom door open. I shared a room with my sister. But as an adult and being a married person, I don't know, we always have slept with our doors closed. So I don't know. I don't know. I think partly because of that. I think the reason why is light. I
Oh,
can't
okay.
take light coming in, and we have a
Hmm.
lot of light, and it's like I would be staring at the light the whole night, and that would
Got
not
it.
be good. It would give me a fright. I feel like I'm doing Dr. Seuss. It's not a jar; it's a door. But I had a door to an attic crawl space in my room as a kid. I don't
Oh,
recommend it. Oh yeah, that would
no.
freak me out.
Oh.
I need my significant other's help to open a jar.
That would be me. I eat plenty of pickles, so that's easy.
Oh my God. Just need to make sure. Did you read the little tag chapter at the end, Alicia? And 1000% agree, Kat. Yes. So, where you want to start? Where do you want to start with this? Do you want to start with your questions and kind of move into the questions I sent?
I
Or,
think we could alternate. We can
okay.
alternate. So whichever one you would like to begin with, because do you want to put the spoiler banner up? Because
Oh,
we're fully
yes.
moving into. We're going to
Yes,
talk
we
about the book
are.
now.
And yes. So we are talking spoilers, but probably I would say beginning parts
Yes,
more
we'll
so.
we'll probably bounce around a little bit. We'll try to go linearly as much as we can.
Okay. So your first question to me was, did you expect the book to be truly supernatural or did you think it was a fake out?
Yep.
I thought it was supernatural just
Okay.
because I knew that there was going to be some folklore involved in it. And when you have a folkloric element, there's always some kind of supernatural or because there's a legend or something,
Hmm.
in it. So I did from the beginning thought it was truly supernatural. And
Okay.
also, too, because of how it opened up with the little girl, Hester Jameson.
Okay. Yeah.
Like Sarah was 9 years old at the time, and
Yes.
Hester, she went to the funeral.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
then I was like, okay, well,
I will say so. I guess I felt faked out by it a little bit because when I read the description at the back of the book, it did not strike me as being paranormal. But then when you go at the front of the book and you read, my copy has the quote from the Miami Herald. It talks about melds the mystery genre with the supernatural for a psychological thriller. And I was like, is it really supernatural then? Or is it a psychological thriller that's tricking you into thinking that it is? Like, I wasn't fully sure. And I even with the whole thing about Hester, I withheld judgment for a little while after that just to see what happened. And then I was like, oh no, it actually is just a paranormal book. And that didn't bother me. Like I wasn't upset
right.
about it. I wasn't, like let down in any way. I just wasn't expecting it. So
Yes. Yes. My
yeah.
thing was I just didn't know what the supernatural element was going to be. And even with the
Okay.
Hester Jameson part of it, I wasn't 100% sure, like, what type of entity are we dealing with? Are we dealing with a
Yes.
zombie? Are we dealing
Right.
with a vampire? Are we
A
dealing with
vengeful spirit.
a vengeful spirit?
Yeah.
What are we dealing with? So I think that kept me on the edge,
Mhm.
throughout, because it was just sort of like we didn't get a whole lot of information about that, until like almost later on. And honestly, I don't really 100% know how we could answer that really. Like, is
No.
she I mean, to me, she's not a zombie in the
No,
truest sense of what a zombie is, and she's not a vampire. So it's like, what exactly is she?
she's
I mean,
unique. She's unique. It's one of the things I really liked about McMahon's writing is I was like, oh, I've never heard of anything like this before. At least it's
right.
original, you know.
Hmm.
So that was something that I did enjoy, and I liked the stipulations of the fact that the
Oh,
sleepers could only be there, 7 days. The unique factor of the fact that they can't talk, they don't like to be seen. That part was actually the part that I thought was the most interesting of the book was the fact that they did not want to be looked at.
oh yeah.
That was
Yeah,
great.
because I think this is the other thing that I liked about it is the, the sleeper has to have some kind of consciousness enough to know that they're not natural,
Yes. Hmm.
um, to the point that that's why they would act in that way. They
Mm.
know that they are not supposed to be there, and
Yes.
it begs me the question of what they're in between, like
Hmm.
life and death. So it's almost like if they can travel in our world, can they also travel beyond? You know,
I don't think that they can. I think that the whole thing was that Gertie got stuck. And that if she could have had the opportunity to go, I think Sarah would have given her that. I really do. After
well,
Sarah realized what she became.
also too, I just think another thing about it is that's very unique is that you can't kill them. You know what I'm saying? You cannot kill them. Oh, I think Alex froze for a second.
Yeah,
So
so did you. Okay, we're back. Hello, sorry, what were you saying?
I said the thing that I thought was interesting that makes them also unique is they can't be killed.
Yes,
So like you
which
have
is
to be
very
very,
zombie-ish.
yes, it is, but they don't decay like a zombie
No,
does.
no.
So that's why I
So,
think it's very, very unique as well.
yeah, Catherine, later in the book having that terrifying feeling of like, what actually is a sleeper? Are they a decomposing thing? Like, who are they when they come back? That was something that I liked, is because none of them in the future, right? Like Ruthie's group had ever seen one.
Right.
So I like that kind of mystery to them of like they have all these descriptions of what Sarah said, but they don't really know how to envision what that sleeper would look like when they came back. And
Exactly.
I think that was cool.
Exactly. Well, Jasmine said Little Gertie broke my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk a little more about her in a bit. I think I read everything, but now I have to go back and check to Faye. Yes, the last 2 pages from Sarah, I did like that part.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was cool to have a new spin on zombies, if you would classify her as that. It did not take, it did take quite a bit of time to find out what sleepers were. I do agree. And
Mhm.
you really, the one thing about a slow burn, I didn't mind this so much. It kind of reminds me of Harvest Home in a way. Um, because it takes so long to get within the community and into the characters and all this kind of stuff that
Mhm.
it's not until it gets closer to the end that you realize the horror of what's really happening. And that's how I felt like the Winter People was. So the payoff was worth it for me, for
Oh
it to
yeah.
be a slower paced. And oh good, I just wondered because it seems easy to miss. Maybe a demon, like not in a sinister, but some sort of demon-esque thing. That's a good theory. Hello, Linda. Welcome, welcome. And hello, Catherine. Welcome. I wonder if it's been tested that they can't be killed. Auntie didn't necessarily know everything. I'm sure the Winchesters could figure out a way. And I thought something else was happening when Gertie's dad shot the fox. Yes, and that's going to be, I have a
I want
note
to talk
about
about
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a
Mhm.
note. And zombies, I might have to read this. Okay, so we both know that it was supernatural. Your second question was, how did you like the pacing? So for me, I enjoyed the pacing.
Mhm.
I really did. I enjoyed the pacing. I don't mind a slow burn, like I said. If the payoff is there, it's well worth it. I also liked the pacing and the fact that they went back and forth between, you know, Sarah's time period intermixed with our present time period. I thought that was blended very well, in my opinion.
I
What
completely
about you?
agree. The one thing I do laugh at though is that you described this as a slow burn, because anybody who knows that I just read this knows that I would never in a million years say this is slow. Actually, I thought this was really fast. By comparison, I mean, I would put this on like the faster end of medium to me, because especially the last, because I remember on Wednesday I had like 120 pages to finish, and I was like, I don't know how long it's going to take me to get through this, and then it was like I snapped my fingers and it was done. I was like, oh, that just went by. And I feel like a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that as you go through the book, it seems like the chapters get shorter for the different perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
because you're really starting to bounce as things are coming to light.
Well, I think you start getting the urgency of what is happening for Sarah, and you're getting the urgency of what's happening in Ruthie's life. So I'm kind of, the slow burn for me is what Angela was talking about, as far as like finding out about the sleepers, and it was taking a long time for that. So that's kind of where I'm going with that part of it. I mean,
I just had to tease that. That
well,
wasn't
no,
against
and that
you.
is,
I'm
and that,
laughing. So
for those of you who are here, that's probably why Alex started the book, The Winter People, late.
it is actually, that's exactly right. But yeah, I was really happy with the way that this was paced personally. So I did not have any problems with that at all.
Yay. Okay, so let's see what everybody else said in here. Alicia said, I also enjoyed the pacing. Catherine enjoyed the pacing and dual timeline. Angela said it was a page turner for me. It was hauntingly atmospheric, and I thought it was fast paced. Nice. Jamie says, I agree. I think the back and forth between the timelines was good. I also agree with Alex. I think the story moved pretty quickly. And I also like the pacing and the back and forth. Yeah, I think that was a plus for this. That way you can kind of see the impact of what a decision was made in the past, how it impacted the present moment, and what's going to happen in the future, basically. So I like that, finding all, and I like finding out all the mystery, like the secrets. There was a lot of secrets in this book. And Angela said, I think the author did a great job of building up the suspense. Yes, I think so as well. So another question we have is, who is your most favorite perspective and your least favorite, and why? Okay, so who is your most favorite?
Okay, so you want me to okay. I think my most favorite was Sarah.
Mine too.
Okay, good.
Mine too. Yes.
Yeah, I thought Sarah, just the fact that she's the one that had all of the supernatural stuff happening to her, and I have always been very fascinated by stories where there are things that have happened in the past, and so the character who previously experienced it knows what's going to happen, but we in the present are finding out what happened to them, as we go through in the future. And I think for some reason, I just really like that. I like jumping back and forth in time. And so Sarah, and just what happened with her daughter, and trying to figure out what was going on with her and Martin, and like what their relationship was turning into. I just really liked that.
Yes, I did too. I really, the character I sympathized with, I sympathized with Sarah, obviously, but I really did sympathize for Martin as well, because he loved Sarah so deeply, and he just could not help her, and he could not get through to whatever that wall was that Sarah had built, to not trust him enough with the family secrets and all that kind of stuff. I think, and I know
he lied too.
I understand that. I get it, but I'm just saying it wouldn't have been a book, obviously, if Sarah would have trusted him enough to tell him. But I felt so bad for him, because honestly, if he would have known the past, and if he would have known about Auntie, and he would have known the trauma Sarah's family had experienced, it would have been a little bit different in the actions that he took. He might not have held on to the bone ring. He might not have, I don't know. It's sort of like once Sarah had Gertie, it's almost like Martin got kind of pushed out a little bit, and he was okay with that if it made Sarah happy,
Yeah.
But then it was just, I don't know. It just, once everything happened to
It was a
Gertie,
snowball.
then
Yeah.
it was a snowball effect, and Martin had no point of reference as to why, and I find that is something that was throughout this whole entire book, because Alice did not share her secrets, and I think it would have been very beneficial to Ruthie and Fawn if she would have, because Ruthie would not have gone to seek answers elsewhere.
Yeah.
So secrets in this part can be, tragic. And also too, Alice kept the secret of Catherine's husband, which
that's true too. Yeah, and the fact that he didn't tell Catherine like actually where he was going.
So
everybody just lied.
Well, I don't know if they lied. They just omitted beneficial information that could have helped everybody along the way.
Yeah.
And, and I get it that Gertie had to be protected and she was a secret, but I also think you took a lot of risk of a lot of people getting harmed. And we know some people did get harmed and they were killed, because Sarah says that. And we know that there are deaths in the town, which I think it's one of those towns like, why are all these people dying? It's like Stranger Things or like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's like, oh, this town is cursed or whatever. And people just kind of, accept it because of the legend that surrounds it. But every one of these people had secrets that could have helped if they would have kept them.
I agree. But as you said, then it wouldn't have been a book.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been terrible. Sarah was my favorite too. This book really kept me on my toes with the timeline. I had to turn back and occasionally reread certain parts. Same for me. And I'm in the minority here. Ooh, well, we want to know who your favorite is. Don't be holding out. Don't be keeping your secret, Faye. I really kind of like Ruthie's perspective because she was so in the dark and had absolutely no idea what she was dealing with. Good point. Sarah lost trust in Martin. He didn't bury that ring. I know. And Ruthie was my fave. Sarah was my least fave. I love Ruthie and Fawn and the Mystery of the Missing Mom. The diary framing annoyed me because it didn't feel like a diary. It was straight up narrative. And Swing says Twin Peaks. The diary entries didn't bother me.
No.
But I don't know. I think I like Sarah too. Just the time period, just everything that she endured. The fact that she couldn't trust Martin enough with her secret of her family. I don't know if maybe she thought he wouldn't believe her, or maybe she didn't want to burden him with it. I don't know. I don't know what her motives were with that. But as far as least favorite, my least was Catherine.
Oh, yeah.
Was that yours too?
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. So, no joke. This is going to sound so bad. But when I got to Catherine's very first ever perspective, I literally looked at the page and I was like, who is this bitch? Because I was like, we're having a repeat of a book that you all never saw the discussion for it, but Kat and I read Remarkably Bright Creatures, and we had a discussion like this together, which is what started this whole book club. That was the catalyst for everything.
Oh, yes.
And her and I were both so mad about a character perspective that was not in the description of the back of the book that was really important for the plot of the story. Well, then the exact same thing happened here. Catherine was really important, and there's no mention of her that she's going to come up anywhere. And I was like, oh my God, it's happening again.
I know. And I so wanted to text Alex or send her an email and say, is this book, what page are you on? Is this book reminding you of another book we read? And I was so close to doing it. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to plant a seed in Alex's mind. I am going to see
You didn't have to.
if she feels the same way, because I'm like, oh my goodness. Now I did tell Alex, because we kind of talked about this a little bit before we jumped on. I said, at least we still got everybody's perspective, the way we wanted. So that was a good thing. And her character wasn't like terrible like that character was in the other book, in the sense, but
Cameron, wasn't his name
yes,
Cameron?
yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just kind of felt like she didn't have to be in the novel
Yeah.
for this story to unfold. And then I
for the
thought
ending.
it was only for the ending, and also to be a threat to Gertie. Because if you think about who's knocking at that door at the end, I'm sorry, Angel, if you're still watching, almost everybody's going to assume it's Gary, right?
Yes. Yes.
But what if it's not? What if it's Ruthie? What if it's Ruthie and Alice?
But they didn't know that she did it.
You don't
That's the thing.
think?
No. So that was the whole thing, is it was a mystery. They didn't know, because so if we're going
I missed
forward
something
when
then.
so I can tell you, when they were still in the cave, Ruthie and Fawn had found Alice. They were in the middle of untying her, and all of a sudden they hear something coming, and Alice is like, oh, like, we got to get out of here right now. Catherine bursts in, and
Right.
Ruthie goes, she was covered in blood, and it was terrified out of her mind. And Catherine's like, something's coming, we got to get out. And then Candace screams. So it'd be very easy to assume that the reason Catherine was covered in blood is because she was being attacked by Gertie.
Okay.
That's the way that I interpreted it, is like they weren't questioning that she had blood on her, because they probably thought it was hers.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
but
that was the only thing.
Me.
That's why I said maybe it was a stretch, but I was like, if they were worried, there was only one other person that knew about this.
Oh,
and
like
they allowed her to bring the camera home with her.
That's true.
And so that's why I was like, and they didn't erase anything off the camera, which I think, if I have to say, Alice, this is what Alice, there's two things that happened in this book. Okay. First of all, Alice should have destroyed the camera.
Completely agree. That was something I noticed as well.
Destroyed it. Okay. And I don't even really know why she kept the wallets. Unless the only thing I can think about the wallets is one day she was going to tell Ruthie about her parentage. That's the only thing I could think about that. But why she kept the camera bag is beyond me. It served no purpose whatsoever.
I think it was guilt. I think that was what Ruthie, or maybe Catherine, had said. One of the character perspectives was talking about how she couldn't let it go. Oh, it was Ruthie, because in the end, Ruthie destroyed Sarah's diary pages, and she was like, yeah, the whole reason that my mom couldn't do it, she might be mad at me, but the reason she couldn't do it is because she felt so much guilt about what happened, but I don't have that guilt because I didn't know these people. So,
right. Well, that's true. But at the same time, that's a question I don't know why Ruthie didn't burn the pages.
Oh,
like, I know you're sending them down into a well, but what if by some weird reason the well dries up, the papers don't smudge, and the papers are there, and somehow they float up out of the well? Just like, why don't you burn? Like, if you burn something and destroy it, like, it's not going to come back from that. So I did think that was a little odd. Like, if you're going to get rid of something evidence wise, burn it, and then throw it down the well.
I do agree with you, though. Like, why would they trust Catherine? Like, just because they had the shared experience? Or maybe it's because they thought that she understood, because they had that conversation with her at the kitchen table, and that's when it dawns on her that she's made a horrible mistake, and she makes that mention to them, like, well, some people make mistakes, and sometimes it's the right thing to do, and you just never know. And then she leaves, and maybe they thought she got it.
Yeah, I love that quote. I wrote that down. We all do what we think is best. Sometimes we make terrible mistakes. Sometimes we do the right thing. Sometimes we never know. We just have to hope.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, honestly, realistically, I do think it's Gary hanging out, in the hall. or wherever he is on the doorstep. She's in an apartment, so in the hall.
Just
I
hanging
don't
out.
know. Just hanging out. And Alicia says Catherine was my least favorite. Also, Ruthie's timeline is more interesting to me as it's more removed from the supernatural aspect. Modern people are less likely to go down that road than in Sarah's time. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my God, wasn't it Cameron? I think that's funny. My favorite was Sarah. Ruthless was my least. Ruth was my least favorite. I just felt I was reading YA there for a bit. Catherine was crazy, wild, dingy thing. Oh my gosh, Catherine was also my least favorite. I liked Catherine up until she tried to save two children from being held at gunpoint and
And
didn't.
then didn't.
That was so
Yeah,
absurd. That was the most
stupid.
absurd thing. I was like, what is going on? Like, you are a ding dong.
She's so selfish. Like truly, I would say if any character in this book, other than Candace, because I hated
Oh, I
Candace.
hated
Candace,
Candace. Oh
she
my
was so
gosh.
easy to hate. But she was the most selfish, I think, of the
Yes.
characters. So yeah,
Yes. Candace, oh my God. She got what she deserved. Go Gertie.
absolutely.
I hate to say that. Ruth
No, I
was
felt
my
that.
favorite also because she started growing up and realizing her mother was doing to keep her family together.
Yeah.
But Sarah's one-track mindedness annoyed me more than Catherine's. Catherine was my least favorite character, but without her, my favorite thing about the end wouldn't exist.
Fair.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I put down here, that it was necessary
Yeah.
for
For the
that
end.
to work and also to be a threat to Gertie long term. The thing that you have to think about is how far is Catherine going to go? Is she going to
Oh,
just be okay with the 7 days? Is she and Gary going to go and reanimate
find somebody to
Austin?
murder. Yeah. I don't think they're
Um,
gonna be able to do that because now Ruthie is looking out. She's like, I got my eyes on this place. But I did wonder too, and I thought that was part of the one of the really great things about the ending is if Catherine knows that all Gary has to do is murder someone, would she be willing to find someone to kill so that he could stay around forever, even in understanding what
yeah.
Gertie turned into? I
Yeah,
I
because
don't
she
know.
actually knows, like,
Yes.
knows what it entails and knows the
Yes.
burden and everything that's going to come with that,
Mhm.
doing that. But it's like that thing where people are reckless or careless. Oh, that's not going to happen to me,
Yep.
kind of
Delusional.
thing. Yeah.
Delusional.
The madness. Okay. It
Yeah.
honestly reminds me of something that Edgar Allan Poe would have written.
Mm. Fair.
Where the
Yeah.
madness and the grief and, comes together that you get so obsessed that you're like, I know this is dangerous, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yep.
Um,
100%.
Faye says, I think Alice just didn't want anyone else to find the camera, but she didn't open the bag herself. Yeah, but when you take something, like, why would you even want to be tied to something? Considering that she was also possibly the cause of why he crashed to begin with.
Yeah. I do think it was guilt.
Yeah, I thought dropping them in the well was kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I didn't understand was Sarah said in 1910 that multiple other people had come to the cave to bring someone back within 2 years. So the info was out there beyond the diary pages. Yes. Well, obviously it was too, because Hester
Beginning.
Jameson.
Yeah, the beginning of the book before
Yeah.
Auntie ever wrote them down. So like other people in town had the knowledge. It
Yeah.
was
So,
just yeah, it carried forward into history because of Sarah. That
yes.
knowledge would have been lost
Right.
otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
Not Catherine, but the woman wielding the gun was dingy. What was her name? Candace.
Candace.
Oh, I could not stand Candace. Didn't Alice say she didn't feel the pages were hers to destroy? Well, whether it's her feeling or not, they are dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, clearly when she came face to face and saw what they did to, what was their names, Tom and Bridget,
Yep.
right there, I would have like destroyed it. I would have been like, oh no, 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 there's something out there. Yes. Candace is getting no love. Oh yeah, I bet anything that Catherine would get Gary to murder someone. So you see, I think the thing about it, I think where the problem with the murder and the 7 days comes in is that you're so consumed with the relief and the overwhelming love that you have for that person that when it gets close to the 7 days, you're just don't want to let go.
Yeah.
Unless the person does something to threaten you. I mean, and we know that Sarah was kind of creeped out about Gertie.
She was scared of her, she admitted that in the end, but I think for her, it was a way to kinda say goodbye. Like, she knew the last day was coming, and she was sad about it, and it did bother her, but there was just it to me, it felt like it was her trying to have, like, a little bit of closure
Mhm.
in a way, because
Mhm.
she didn't mean for Gertie to murder anyone.
Oh,
Gertie
that's
did that
true. Yeah.
to save her, so it's not like she, like, encouraged Gertie to go kill someone. Gertie did that because her
She was
mom was gonna
protecting
die.
Sarah.
Yeah,
Right.
and then, when Sarah sees that, like, well, the rumor was true, and now Gertie's gonna live for all eternity as this, I would never wish that on anybody, knowing what she did.
Well, and then that brings up a good point is was Gertie aware that her act would have kept her alive?
I
Because I
don't
wonder if it would have been a different situation. And then if she killed somebody without feasting on them, would she have also remained?
Yes. She didn't have to eat them.
She did not. Okay.
No, I don't think that was. I'll go back and look to see if I can find it in the directions, but I'm pretty sure it was just that she had to kill someone.
Okay.
Maybe
So that was
maybe
just
I
like
misremembered.
a crime of passion right there, and she wanted to save.
Yeah,
So, oh,
maybe
that's
I'm
an
misremembering.
interesting thought to trying to keep Gary around. Yep. I think Catherine would definitely find someone for Gary to murder. Yes, it's definitely a dumb reason to not destroy the pages. I agree. It's that question or thought of like, if you love someone enough, you'll let me go. Yeah.
I found it, Kat. It says, "It
Okay.
is said that if a sleeper were to murder a living person and spill his blood within those 7 days, then the sleeper will stay awake for all eternity." So they didn't
Okay.
have to
So they
eat
didn't
them.
have to eat them. Okay.
Mm-mm.
But we just know that they did have to feed in order to survive. Well, I guess they don't die.
They get
So
weak.
they
They
get
get
weak.
weak and angry.
Yeah, they get
So,
hangry.
yeah. Me too.
So
Relatable.
this actually brings us to the next question that Alex had asked. Would you have created a sleeper if given the opportunity to bring back your child? And to kind of piggyback on that, because that's kind of like the heart of this novel is like trying to be reunited with a loved one who has died. What risks would you take to experience such a reunion? And that kind of like piggybacked on what Alex was saying, So I personally would not. As devastated as I would be to lose my child, I would not, because I'm freaked out about stuff like that, honestly. I don't like playing with anything that has to do with um, the dead, if that makes any sense. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to interfere with it. And I don't know if it's because of the books that I've read, the movies that I've seen. I particularly am kind of freaked out about seeing a dead body just in general.
Oh, yeah.
So I would not relish the idea of seeing my child, knowing my child was, buried or whatever, and then having to see them come back, um,
Reanimated. Yeah.
reanimated. And that reminds me of Pet Cemetery, because of just the grief is so overwhelming that you're willing to do that, but they're not coming back the same way. I mean, you think about it, there is no longer a soul there, it's.
Maybe inspired by this book, I'll read Pet Cemetery this year because that's one that I haven't read, and I
Oh, I
know
would
that my sister
highly,
I have
highly
a copy of
recommend it.
it. Yeah,
Oh, I would
I just need
highly
to.
recommend it. It's one of my favorites that he has
Okay.
written, just because it is about grief and there's a lot of decisions that are made. But that kind of, and I'm sure anyone who's read Pet Cemetery probably got those kind of vibes a little bit.
Mhm.
Not exactly the same, but just it just reminded me of that. It also reminded me of The Monkey's Paw, which is a short story written by W. Jacobs. It's like the idea is enticing until you see what's brought back. And then you've got the burden to make a decision, because what you're getting is not the same. And the other thing too is I don't think it's fair to you ultimately, because once you've processed your grief, then it's like, holy shit, what did I do?
Yeah.
Okay. Especially in these circumstances, because even though Sarah had no intention of having Gertie stay forever, she really was going to let her go.
Yeah.
You just don't know what's going to happen. Like the whole auntie thing was so shocking and surprising, and then it's not fair to the child.
No.
That you're not allowing that child to go on. So I would absolutely not.
So I want to say that my first initial reaction is to say no, that I wouldn't. I do think that there are some important I think there's some important differences, like how we see what happens with the characters over the course of the book, that like the more knowledge you gain, the more horrific the idea of doing it becomes. Because like for Sarah, for example, she didn't know the way Gertie would come back, right? She was just told that she would. So for her, she's like, oh, she's going to come back exactly as she was. She's going to be able to talk. She's going to be this happy, vivacious child. I'll get her for 7 days and then she'll go away. Well, then Sarah realized what actually was the case. But then you have somebody like Catherine, and it's like she might not have understood the entirety of everything when she made the decision about Gary, but she had read Sarah's diary. She knew what a sleeper was. And so to me, it's like she made that decision even after she learned how horrible it was, because there's a big difference there. It's like if you think they're coming back normal and then you realize that they're not and you do it anyway, I think that's even worse.
Well,
right?
yeah. And that's where the irresponsibility comes in, because you're taking a risk. You're taking such a risk because you were there in the cave. You know that Gertie killed Candace. So you know what a person is capable of. It's like anything. Anytime there is blood spilled, okay, it's going to happen again because they got that taste for blood. That's going to now become their nature or whatever the case may be. So I agree 100%. Sarah had no earthly idea what was going to happen. And her only point of reference of ever comparing it to would be with that Hester Jameson child, who did not look threatening to her, was kind of shy or whatever.
She smelled bad. She smelled really bad.
She smelled bad, but I mean, that's not unusual considering that she was, in a coffin, kind of thing. But Catherine, to me, knowing to go forward with that, and then think about it. There's a difference between reanimating your child and reanimating an adult.
There's that. And then there's also the fact that Gertie had just died and Gary had not. That was the other thing too, is like Catherine, I understand that she is still grieving. We've all grieved for people. Like I've grieved for people, I've grieved for my animals. Like I know how raw and painful that is. And especially if it's a tragic accident, in that moment, you're like, I would do anything to be able to spend time with them again. I can relate to that.
Right.
But there's also that sense of, because I'm like you, it's like I've read so many things, right? That it's like I would never, because of the possibility. But for Sarah, they didn't have stories like that. All they had was folklore. She believed in magic.
Right.
She knew magic was real. I don't blame Sarah. Was it an irresponsible decision? Yes, but I don't blame Sarah for what she did. I do blame Catherine.
Yes. And also too, Sarah trusted Auntie. And I think if Auntie thought it was something that was so horrific that couldn't be contained, or something that was going to get so out of control, I don't think even Auntie at that point would have passed it on to Sarah. Or if she passed it on to Sarah, she felt like Sarah was enough of a person that would be responsible in that situation. Like she wouldn't have just done it for the sake of doing it, like bringing it back or anything like that. Alicia liked how I went straight to cannibalism. Yes. Hangry sleepers. I can't relate. Well, y'all know I love zombies, so what can I say? Heck no, I've watched enough Supernatural to know that what's dead should stay dead. Yes, like no. I've read and seen Pet Cemetery. I know better. I know. And I wouldn't want to taint or ruin my fondness or best memories with that person. That's so true. My thought is my grandmother because I don't have kids. Yeah, I mean, you're just not bringing back the person. I don't care. You're not bringing back the person the way they were prior,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And 100% absolutely, Jasmine. I would not bring back a sleeper, not even my child. That's God's territory. Good point. The movie is good too for Pet Cemetery. I agree, Kat. It's so hard to imagine any of that. Yeah. I mean, I can see I mean, I've dealt with it myself too, and it's like, it's just not like that's one reason I don't like even to see a dead body, because I don't even want that to be an image in my mind of someone. Like I
Yeah.
don't need to see that to have my closure, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
It does. Yeah.
It's too it At that point, that is not that person anymore to me.
Right.
Plus, I can't think of anyone I love who wouldn't be furious I brought them back. I certainly would be furious. I agree. Dude, I paid my dues and got out of this poop hole. And Alicia says, I second Pet Cemetery for you reading it for sure. Sorry I'm late. This was
Oh,
good.
hi, Zach.
4.25. Yay. But I did like it more the first time I read it in 2015-ish.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
possibly because you already knew about it. Possibly.
Yep.
And there's a movie for Pet Cemetery, Angela. There's a movie. The fairy tale I mentioned, The Three Snake Leaves, was that they don't come back the same theme. I also recommend The October Country by Ray Bradbury.
I need to read that one. I love
Yeah.
Bradbury. Everybody who watches
Yeah.
my channel knows that. That's one of my
So I
favorites.
think everybody is on the same page that they
Yeah.
would not do that.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm gonna keep this one because this will be one that'll be good for the end. So a couple of questions I had. Oh yeah. You also had something about irritate. Oh no, we'll keep that. We'll keep that because that was in that same bunch.
Okay.
Okay. So I had a question, and my question was, when Alice and her family inhabit Sarah's house and her land, how does that environment transform them? Do you believe that the history of a locale can influence your present day experiences there? Did you have an answer for that?
I really enjoyed this question because honestly, the first thing that came to my mind is, if you've ever traveled someplace with a lot of history, but you don't know that it's historic, when you're traveling through there, you just think, oh, this is cool. And then the second that somebody tells you the history of a place, suddenly you want to like honor that thing. It becomes more sacred somehow, like a battlefield where people died, or like, one of the oldest towns in the world or something like that. But you don't have an appreciation for it when you don't know the history. And I think that we see that very clearly with Ruthie. Ruthie, I don't think, was very impacted by like the land itself, if you will, like no magic of it or anything like that, because she was a teenager that was ready to leave. She was frustrated with her mom that she couldn't go to college. She's like, I just need to get out of this place. Versus Alice, who is the exact opposite, who knew everything and had a lot of, I don't know if you want to say reverence, but like she had that feeling about the land that like this was someplace that was important and was meant to be protected. And once Ruthie inherited that knowledge, all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know what it is? It is important. And that changed her when she got that knowledge. So I think in that way it impacts people.
Yes, I agree. I agree with everything that you say. I also think that this place that they live has kind of been frozen in time. You know what I'm saying? I feel like even the town itself, even though they have modern stuff happening like Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff, they're still like
the devil's hand is unchanged.
Yes, it's all that area is still primal from whenever it was at the time that Sarah and them lived there. So I do think it has a lot to do with it. And I like the fact that the town has their history, even though they don't really know the whole history, that legend about it. I also found it a little bit interesting that, Alice doesn't like Ruthie's boyfriend, Buzz, very much, or doesn't see her for that. And it made me think, this question made me think about this, is that I don't think Alice wants Ruthie to be with anybody because of what she thinks Ruthie may end up having to do.
Oh, okay. I like that idea. I hadn't thought about that,
Well,
but it
because she
makes a
was
lot of
sort of
sense.
like telling her, I don't see you with this guy. It's like he didn't really have much of a
Yeah,
future, kind
and
of
Ruthie said,
thing.
"Who do you see me with?" and then left.
Well, and
So,
also too,
yeah.
if you think about it, Buzz is so much into the aliens and wanting to
I
be about the
know.
devil's hand and all that kind of
Uh-huh.
stuff. So it's almost like if she can kind of discourage that relationship, then maybe he won't go over there.
Go maybe that's what it was. Maybe it wasn't Buzz himself, maybe it was him and his friends and their interests that posed a danger somehow.
Mhm.
I like that. That's a great point.
So anyway, I don't know if anyone else wants to weigh in with
Looks like we
that.
got some comments.
Let's see. Zach is talking about Pet Cemetery remake. Tried something different, but didn't take it all the way. I would not recommend the remake. The only reason I watched it was because of the Year of King I did with Kelsey, but I didn't care for it. The original is Chef's Kiss. Well put, Alex. I agree. That's what he's saying. But there's a trailer for The Winter People on YouTube, and not the
Oh,
one Kurt Russell's in. Ooh.
oh,
I'd say they go very well together, but I say read Pet Cemetery before the October Country.
okay.
That's a
Good
good
to know.
point.
Thank
And
you.
I think she was scared Buzz would find things out. That's what I kind of was thinking about after we find out, about Ruthie, changing her mind and wanting to help and all that kind of stuff. I was like, I'm wondering if there was more of a thought about that. Okay, so another question I have is that Ruthie and Fawn have been raised to question authority and to live a non-materialistic life. What
Mhm.
benefits and challenges does their upbringing give them when their mother goes missing? And ultimately, what did Alice try to teach her daughters about becoming fulfilled women? So it's like a two-parter,
Mhm.
question for that. So what do you think? Did you give that any thought?
I think this one is an interesting question, and I had a little bit of difficulty coming up with a coherent answer for this, so I hope it'll be decent. But so Fawn to me is still too young to have like formed an opinion about anything or to like have gained any useful skills because she's still so reliant on Alice and we saw that her reliance on Ruthie. I mean, she's 6 years old,
Right.
right? But Ruthie, for her credit, I mean, Alice taught her quite a bit. And, we even see at the beginning of the book the whole like, oh, well, if you want to learn about business, I'll tell you about my egg business and everything, and you can go to the market with me. And I think that Ruthie became a very resourceful young woman,
Hmm.
and she ended up realizing over the course of the story how much she could actually handle on her own. I mean, the fact that they got in a car and drove hours away to go meet strangers, it's like that's a pretty wild thing to do, but you don't want to involve the police. Like
Right.
that complete opposite ends of like she feels like she can figure this out if given enough time, and she doesn't want to involve anybody else until she has the proper amount of time to figure it out.
Well, and I
I
think
think
also too, Alice is so private and
yeah,
values privacy. They don't have really any connection to the outside world as far as Wi-Fi, and
yeah, no
they pretty
computer.
much go into town when they have to go into town, but they're not. It's not like people are coming out to the house. All the transactions that are made to kind of like make money for the family is done away from the home.
Mhm.
And I think that's all Alice trying to protect anybody coming close to the
Very much
property as
so.
well as the girls.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
she
think
was
so
mad
she
when that
teaches
photo was
them,
taken.
yeah,
Yeah.
self-sufficient, independent. I think she wanted them to depend and rely on themselves. So
Yes.
Ruthie's very self-reliant, and you're going to see that Fawn is like that also. I mean,
Yeah.
there's even the point that Ruthie kind of pushes, and this is where I think if Alice would have trusted Ruthie enough to kind of share things with her, it would have been a little bit different. Like she pushes Alice to put Fawn into school. Even though
Oh.
Fawn is not making friends and doing what she needs to do, she wants her to be
Mhm.
socialized. Whereas
Yeah.
Alice was kind of thinking,
Doesn't
we
really need
don't have
it.
to worry about other children coming here. Like you open a
Yeah.
can of worms, the more you go out and you socialize.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. You just never know how it's going to work out. I don't think Fawn would be too sad about not, going to school, in my
No, I
opinion
don't
with
think
that.
so. And I should
So,
say I didn't give enough credit to Fawn. There was one moment in the book where she was showed a lot of self-reliance, and that was when she went to go get the gun and wrapped
yes,
it in Mimi's blanket. I actually
yes,
thought that was a really great moment. I was like, that was a smart kid. And Alice didn't end up or not Alice, excuse me, Ruthie didn't end up needing to use it, but she had it if she
right.
needed it. And I
Yes.
liked that part. I was like, good job, Fawn. So
Another thing that I liked about Ruthie was when Ruthie was given the option of leaving to take Fawn and to leave, when Catherine suggests that you go to
mhm,
my car, get the phone or whatever. And
mhm.
Ruthie makes the decision not to do that. And that was very smart. Of course, Catherine
Yeah.
had her own ideas of what she was planning to do. And
Uh-huh.
so if she could kind of get rid of them to do that. Um, I just thought that showed a lot for Ruthie because Ruthie knew it was dangerous,
Yeah.
but she still went ahead and did it.
And
And
brought Fawn with her.
yes, and brought Fawn with her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see what people say in here. Um, Jasmine says, well, I think Fawn's innocence was put on display when she didn't understand Buzz's video game. I wonder if that was an intention parallel to Gertie's innocence as well.
I wondered
I
that
like
too.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
like an intentional parallel. Because weren't Gertie and Fawn about the same age?
Yeah, Gertie was, either 7 going on 8 or 8 years old based off of her tombstone dates,
Yeah,
and Fawn was 6. So
yeah,
they were close.
close in that.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what I was thinking. I was proud of her when she hid the gun. Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree. Ruthie had her boyfriend as a sounding board. That was one loose end that didn't just tie up for me.
Yeah, yeah, Buzz was just mysteriously gone after a
Yeah.
while. He was really important, and then he just wasn't.
Right. Well, and I don't know if it's sort of like you almost wonder if Ruthie at some point realized, I needed Buzz to a point, but I don't need him enough to keep him around when it's going to get like this.
Mhm,
I think she needed to, that's where that part of Alice came out in her, I think.
mhm.
I have horrible panic attacks, so I know how meaningful it was for Ruthie to enter that cave to save her mom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Had a
thought
lot
that
of
was
buildup
very
about the
important.
tiny spaces. I did
Yeah.
like that too. I like that it wasn't just a one-off of her being like, "Oh, I don't like small spaces." Like, it was brought up multiple times, and then when she gets to the cave, you're like, "Oh, this is gonna be bad."
Right.
So, I did like that.
Zach said, I forgot to check, but I'm pretty sure there was a mistake. The gun they found probably wouldn't have had a safety. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't sure about that. I don't know enough about them.
I don't either.
Yeah. And also, before we move on, Jamie did make a comment about the movie trailer. There is a 2023 movie called The Winter People, but it's not this storyline. So
Oh,
very
okay.
good. Good point. Yeah, you hate to spend your time watching a movie and being like, this is totally not anything to do with that. Okay, so then my next question was, did Tom and Bridget O'Rourke have ethical motivations? Did Candace? And how do the revelations about them affect Ruthie's sense of self?
I would like you to go first on this one because I wanna know what you mean by ethical motivations.
Well, for me, I said I'm not sure if they were ethical because they were going to make money off of something that maybe on paper didn't seem dangerous, but in reality it did. So maybe they didn't think that this was really real, but that people would be fascinated with it and that they were going to make a profit off of it.
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't understand the consequences.
Mhm.
Now, Candace's whole motivation was because she wanted to hire a fancy lawyer to fight her husband who had her child or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Mhm.
again, it wasn't very ethical because you are literally putting something out in the world that is going to, I mean, even if you didn't really 100% believe, I mean, but what if? But what if, I mean, are these people reading this diary or whatever and trying to realize that there was a real person? Were they thinking that she was mad and maybe it didn't happen? I don't know. I
Yeah,
didn't
because there
think.
was the theory that Martin killed her. So a lot of people thought that she was just delusional because they were like, "Oh, well, clearly it was her husband." Right.
Right.
So this question's hard too because if we're looking at it from the perspective that they don't think that it's real, like if we had a fairy tale, for example, that we had heard growing up, and then we discovered there were secret pages that extended the fairy tale, like I'm just going to throw out like Cinderella, something
Right.
like that, and then we go and we publish the additional pages. To us, there's no harm in that. There's no harm in making money on it. Like there's, it's like, why shouldn't we? Like we have the rights to this at this point, right? And
Right.
to them, I think they probably looked at it like that. But the fact that they went up to the house and they went to go try to find the portal and then they discovered that it was real. Um, I mean, I think it's obviously great that Alice recognized that she shouldn't publish them because she still could have gotten she still could have left there and been like, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't care what happens. But she didn't. She stayed. Candace was honestly
Oh, yeah.
she had a screw loose. That
Mm.
lady was horrible. I don't think that I think that even if it were real and she realized it were real, if she had gotten out of there, I don't think she would have cared. I think
Oh,
she
I
would have
know.
published them
No.
anyway.
I think she would have
So,
been one of those people that would have sold her story to a television
yeah,
series or
yeah,
gone to the tabloids or something like that.
yeah. We don't know
Um,
enough about Tom and Bridget to know whether or not they would, but I mean, I guess you'd like to hope that maybe they wouldn't.
I think Tom and Bridget probably were looking at it from like a historical point of view kind of thing, maybe as a source, like a primary source of some kind,
Mhm.
historical. But I'm kind of changing my mind about how I'm feeling about them based on what you just said about the fairy tale thing. I don't think their intent was um, the same vein as Candace's. I
No.
think Tom and Bridget went to go seek this out to see if this was true. Unfortunately, they lost their lives. Now, this says a lot about Alice because,
Very much
and
so.
how strong Alice is, because she took the responsibility of Gertie, knowing what Gertie was, okay, and then
Mhm.
also taking the responsibility of Ruthie. And
Yeah.
part of me thinks that she almost had to when Candace said, we don't want anything to do with her. We don't want another mouth to feed. So the husband said, but I also think Alice took Ruthie to protect Gertie because Candace didn't know exactly how Tom and Bridget died, but Alice did.
Or oh, you mean that Ruthie did because she was there?
No,
They're like,
Ruthie did, but what I'm saying is like Candace was told that they were killed by some wild animal.
oh yeah, it was a monster that came out of the
Yeah,
woods and
yes.
dragged them
So
away.
the whole point of that is that Candace would not have gone to tell that story. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? So there was no
Mhm.
threat of that. But if like Ruthie had remembrances
Yep.
of that. And
Mm.
so at the time Alice's husband was alive. So she remembers that of being brought down and all that. And then of course, but I think Alice felt almost obligated to keep, well, they were friends of Tom and Bridget also, but I think to keep Ruthie to protect Gertie.
Okay.
I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes
I
sense.
like that. No, I like that theory. I hadn't thought of it that way. I kind of thought of it as like they were just selflessly taking her, but I think that that's a good point that she clearly had trauma from her experience of watching her parents die because she blocked everything out and she didn't even remember her name because her name was it Hannah or Amanda? I think it was Hannah.
Hannah,
What
I thought.
yeah, Hannah. And the fact that she doesn't remember that either. It's like we don't really know exactly how old she was, but I think she was like toddler
I think she
age.
was like 3. I
Oh
thought
yeah,
they
that's
said she
right.
was
Yes,
about
3.
3.
That's right. She was 3 years old because that's when she moved to the house because that was she realized that, she didn't have any earlier pictures of herself, and
Right,
that was how she
right.
started figuring it out. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Um, I don't know. I liked that part too of, her figuring out that she was actually related to Tom
Mhm.
and Bridget and the whole, thing with her having her dreams, and she was dreaming about her mom, and it's like, was that a supernatural thing because she was related to Sarah's side of the family, or was it, like, her having some sort of, like, memory from her childhood that was
Mhm, mhm.
resurfacing? I kinda took it as it was a supernatural
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Um,
Because she had the gift like Sarah had,
right.
to be sensitive to that.
Mhm.
So Jamie says, I think there's something morally suspect anytime someone wants to profit from someone else's history, regardless of whether or not they're alive. That's a good point. And Angela said, nothing Candace did made any sense. She had a screw loose somewhere. Oh yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
she was consumed with her own grief of losing her child, but she was just I hated the whole scene of Ruthie in the house with her. It
Oh,
just kind of
with the
creeped
twins.
me out because she goes into this house and the house is decaying
Oh,
kind of, and it just it gave me such creeped out vibes. And then I really thought her child was dead. I was
I thought
like,
that too because of
and
the way
then
she
we were
was
going to
acting.
find her child in a room. I'm just like,
Oh. Oh.
I'm like, oh my God, this is like creeping me out because I'm thinking, could you imagine if like she looked around and she saw this dead child? Like she had kept it. That's just Candace just gave me those vibes. She just freaked me out. But I didn't like her either. She just the whole fact that she didn't care who she had to hurt or what she had to do. The fact that she was threatening
Fawn.
children.
Yeah, a 6-year-old with a gun
I
pointing
know.
it at her. I hated that part.
I did. And Rebecca says, yes, Kat, there's always people out there who would believe it's true and they would try bringing someone back from the dead. It is true. I think,
Yeah.
people will do things when they're,
Desperate.
desperate.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay. Another question that I had was, how did you react to Gertie's hunger? What is its significance to the maternal women who must care for her? Do you have an answer to that?
I do think it's important to know because we're getting a main focus on the women of the story. Martin's thrown in there, but Alice's husband, his name began with a J. Was it James? John?
Hmm.
I can't. I think it might have been James.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
kind of.
yeah, sorry, sorry, I can't remember. But they had decided together, he and Alice, that they were going to stay there, and so he played a crucial role in Gertie as well, and that's part of the reason why Gertie became so lonely. I think is because Alice was the only one who was left there to like help, kind of like keep her company, and that's why she kidnapped her and was like, "You're going to stay with me forever. I'm too lonely." Um, and that's relatable. I mean, that's sad. She's this little kid that's perpetually a kid out there all by herself, and so the only person she has is the mother figure of Alice after
Right.
Sarah dies. And I do think that aspect of the story is important. In terms of Gertie's hunger, it's funny because the whole joke about cannibalism earlier is it kind of makes me wonder, Gertie, did she have the hunger for people the whole time? Because we know that when she was presented with the food originally from Sarah, and it was just like some cheese and some milk, she threw it. She smashed
Yeah.
everything, and then it became kind of obvious that she's like, "I want meat." Like she couldn't say that, but to me, that was my first thought. Is like, "Oh no, she wants meat of some kind." I
Yeah.
didn't automatically assume that she wanted to eat people.
No,
You know,
because there was a part where Sarah says that she would go out and hunt for her and
but
get
that was
her
after
wild.
Gertie committed murder. That was
Right,
after,
right,
yeah,
right. I know. But what I'm saying is, it's like she made the comment that she tried to go out and hunt for her, but it didn't like satiate her. Like
right.
it seemed like the only thing that she wanted was human flesh. Now, was that because she experienced it because of Auntie, or is that a part of what happens when you become a sleeper.
Yeah.
You
It's a mystery.
know, it's a mystery. I mean, we don't know that because we have nothing to compare Gertie to, because we don't know what Hester was doing. We don't even know if Hester killed anything, like another human, you
Yeah.
know, because she's never mentioned again.
Right.
Clearly, there are other people that have disappeared. So
Hmm.
you know that something has hunted them, and that
And
was
it
them
was
going out
Gertie.
in the woods,
Yeah.
right? But I'm just
Yeah.
saying, prior to that, I'm sure that there were people that were missing.
Mm.
So my thing is, did Gertie, because that was what she first fed on, is that, you know, her preference at that point?
It's a good question. I really don't know, and
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think that there's any way for us to know
I
officially.
know. Y'all
It's
weigh in. What do y'all think? What do you think about Gertie's hunger? I mean, obviously she needs to eat in order to have strength.
yeah.
Um, which also raises the question, if she like never ate again, could that potentially kill her?
I don't think it would. I
So
think
like
it's very
what
much
happened
like
to you? Would you just
vampire
be in
rules,
would you be in some kind of,
like sleep state
yeah,
where
was that
you
maybe why you're
in.
a sleeper? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know. I don't. I think the main concern for Alice is the fact that for Gertie, the longer that she went like hungry or lonely, Alice knew that Gertie would take matters into her own hands because she had killed people. So that was what Alice was trying to do. Is she's like, I got to take care of her enough that she doesn't feel like she needs to do that, right? And so I don't know. If she were just left to her own devices and she started getting weaker, I honestly think she just would have ventured into town
Yeah,
eventually and just started killing people.
she might be on the highway.
Oh, ooh. Ooh.
I mean, think about it. A person would stop for a child.
Oh God, you're so right.
The hunger, maybe she wanted to be fully alive and have a connection with people.
Hmm.
That's a good point. I don't think it would kill her if she never ate again. I think it's just part of the suffering. Oh,
And I do
that's
think she
true.
suffered. I felt so bad for her because it's true she didn't choose that. And it's
Well, that's what I said. I mean, I was sad for her. To me, it's an unfair curse, is what I wrote. And I think Gertie was scary. Like, she scared me.
yeah.
Um, and then, as far as like the significance for the maternal part, I had said they are held back from a life they want because they're choosing motherhood
Oh,
to this entity that is not ever going to go out. Like, when you have a baby, you know, they're eventually going to become an adult and either go to school or get a job. They're going to go out and make a life for themselves. Sometimes they come back. My oldest one's living with me now. But my whole point is, eventually they move on, and then you move on as,
yeah.
the parent or whatever.
Hmm.
This is, they're held back by being Gertie's mom. I mean, like, Gertie has to have a caregiver, and that reminds me of Let the Right One In. I have never read the
Okay.
book, which I would love to read the book, but I've seen both movie adaptations of it, and they're both fantastic. But it's the burden of having to care for someone that is not going to die,
Hmm.
but you're going to die.
That makes a lot of sense.
And so if you don't have, and I think that's why this is so important with the women and the care of children. And, if you don't have that maternal bonding to do that, would you be able to do that? Like, how is Ruthie? What is Ruthie going to do? Like, is it going to be Ruthie and then Fawn? At what point, who's going to take over after that? I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the one thing that broke my heart about Sarah towards the end, was she was getting old. And I did love how it was true that it was really Sarah walking
Yeah.
through the town, and that she
Taking the
liked the
little.
fact that everybody thought that she was a ghost and she really was alive. I loved that part of it. I was like, that is amazing.
I loved
But
it too.
for me, I felt so sad at the end when she was talking about how it was getting harder and harder for her, because she was getting older. And then you just think to yourself, how sad is that um
It was her fault. That's what's sad to me is the fact that she knew that she caused it and that
Mhm.
there wouldn't be anybody to take care of Gertie, and she didn't know what would happen, and
Yeah.
the guilt of that. But
Yes.
I like you bringing up the connection to the other story, because one of the things that I really wanted to mention is we seem to have a knack for picking books where children have their choices taken from them in order to like support the greater good. I was like, oh man, Boys in the Valley, who? That's what I was thinking about while reading this. Is I was like, man, Ruthie just had the exact same thing happened to her, where Alice had kind of already decided her
Yeah.
destiny. It was just a matter of waiting for Ruthie to realize it for herself, that that was the thing that she should do. And now she will never have an opportunity to do anything else.
I know. And that breaks my heart. Like, I kind of feel bad for Ruthie. I feel terrible for her fate because right now she's young, she's energetic, she wants to help her mom. Her relationship with her mom has become something different because of now
Mhm.
she knows the burden that Alice has been feeling, what she has done to protect she and Fawn. But I think she's naive because she does not really understand the responsibility. Like right now, she and Alice are going to be a team. But what if an accident befalls Alice like it did her dad? What is she going to do if for some reason Gertie, decides I don't want to be contained here any longer? Or what if Ruthie finds somebody that she loves? I mean, and is she's gonna have to find somebody pretty special to share the secret with.
Buzz,
By
Buzz,
the way,
where are you?
if you marry me, we got to take care of this
This
dead
creepy
relative of mine.
demon
It's
baby.
creepy, and she might eat your face.
Don't worry, we'll tell her that you're with us,
Yeah,
and she
right,
just wants your
right.
company. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I don't know.
mean,
I think I'd flee for my life if told such an information. That I do wonder though, because you were talking about like what if Gertie wanted to leave. I'm kind of wondering if part of the deal is that they're like confined within a certain region of where they were woken from.
oh
Like,
yeah,
because
like
if you
their
imagine,
grave.
yeah, because Gary, he died, I say near town. He was like what, an hour away, and
Hmm.
then his spirit would come back potentially again to Catherine. Um, or maybe it has to do with the proximity of the person who brought them back. I'm
Maybe.
really not sure.
Jasmine says, well, she's a damn soul, so I feel like she's never go away. And Gertie likely would become so desperate that she kills an entire town. Yeah. I mean, it could be pretty horrific. Pretty
Hmm.
horrific.
Hmm.
I just uh, to think about it. And Gertie was lonely. Yeah, I mean, I felt so
Yeah.
sorry for her. And I mean, she was so lonely that she ties Alice up
Yeah.
because Alice wasn't going as often.
Hmm.
Keaton says, I've always interpreted this sort of thing as both a physical hunger and a futile attempt to replace what they are now lacking as an undead being. I like that.
Hmm.
And I almost wonder if that's why zombies do what they do. Because
Have
they're
you ever seen Warm
human.
Bodies?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, if you think about it, they're trying to function as a human being, but they're not anymore. Sarah said the hunger came on quicker than when she only ate animals.
Oh,
I
okay.
also think she would have come out of hiding to kill. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. Sarah writes at the end of the book, what she longs for is human blood. I
Yes.
think because that's what she started with. That's what I think.
Mm.
Like, I don't know, like, how would she know that's what she needed?
Maybe that's just part of the curse. I mean, like vampires too, right? Like maybe
Yeah.
it is supposed to be like a vampire zombie thing. I don't.
Oh my god. Oh, the book is so good. Yeah, talking about Let the Right One In. I want to read it because I love the movie so much. So good. Warning for the book Let the Right One In is way, way darker. Yes, I've heard. I've heard it's hard to read. And maybe they'll eventually throw Gertie down the well again. Oh, that would be terrible. Could you imagine? That would be awful. But I could see that happening if for some reason you couldn't take it anymore. Like you would have to put her somewhere that she couldn't get out. But with her being a supernatural entity, do you think maybe she could climb the wall of the well? Like I could
She could
envision
dig her
that.
way out.
I
I
could
don't know.
envision her like crawling.
What is that movie, The Ring? Comes
Yes.
out of the well.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Faye. I did like the change in Ruthie's view of her parents. She started the book thinking they were just goofy hippies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of felt bad for them too. I mean, you know, that just goes to show you that they probably did not think that anything was true about it and that they wanted to go there for historical fact and maybe include that in whatever that they were going to sell. But it's kind of good that they didn't because then it would have become a tourist attraction. Could you imagine that?
Oh God, that would be horrible.
So, to Faye, I thought the same thing. Yeah. The first time Sarah tried to feed Gertie, Gertie threw the food across the room. Probably that's
Yep.
how they start to realize what she wants to eat. She refuses everything else. But if you remember, oh no, that is true. That happened before she actually killed Auntie.
Yeah, no, that was one. That was why I said that to me was the indication that Gertie wanted meat. It was just a matter of like what kind,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
so
we wouldn't have known that until that happened.
yeah,
Okay. So Alex did have a question because I know we're getting kind of long on this. Her question was, what part of the book surprised you the most? What did you find the most irritating? And were any details too obvious? So, what surprised you the most?
definitely the Gary ending. I wasn't expecting that to happen, and I did think that it was a really good way to end Catherine's narrative, even for as
Mm.
much as I didn't want her perspective and I didn't think it was really necessary. I thought it added a little something something because I think it would have been too clean otherwise. The ending would have been too neatly wrapped up if it was just
Like,
like,
we're going
oh,
to live
Ruthie's just gonna,
happily ever
yeah,
after.
Ruthie's just gonna take over for Alice. I think I would have found that pretty hollow. But
Mm.
now that Catherine secretly did something that could potentially have implications not only for her but for other people in the town, or if they were to leave, other parts of the world, I thought that to me was the scariest part of the book because
Mm.
Gertie had at least made a deal. She's like, I won't hurt anyone as long as you come visit me. But what the hell is Gary gonna do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So
Well, and the other thing, too, is Gary's an adult.
yes,
So, if you think about like the thought processes of an adult,
mm-hmm.
and we know that they can think because Gertie does. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Gertie can manipulate, and she's a child. So, will Catherine be able to control Gary the way they were able to control Gertie?
Right.
And, is Catherine even safe from Gary? I mean, we
Maybe
don't
Gary will
know.
murder her, and that's how he'll
Yes,
remain alive forever. Who
I
knows?
know. We don't know that. As far as my surprise, I was surprised by that because I was like, what are you doing, Catherine? Like, were you not
Mm-hmm.
listening to anything at the kitchen table? I'm like, come on. It was a whole discussion to, like, not do that. I was really surprised by Auntie being alive. Like, I did not
Oh
see that
yeah.
coming. Like, I really
Mm-hmm.
thought Auntie was gone. And I was so surprised that she was so vengeful. She was the only one that was so full of vengeance that she would kill children that
Yes.
loved her. You know what I'm saying? Like, or
Yes.
hurt somebody. Like, the wrath was amazing to me. First of all, she
Mm-hmm.
kills the brother,
Yep.
which I thought was so sad. I'm like, oh my
Yes.
God, he worshiped you. He loved you like a mother. And then you have Sarah, who they had such a great relationship. And the fact that you would come back it's like the sins of the father. You're going to suffer for the sins of the father. That's what I was kind of
Yeah.
thinking of. You would come back and you would hurt Sarah so badly for that, and then try to pin it on Martin. I just that shocked me. I mean, maybe everybody else saw that coming.
I did not, honestly, I really didn't,
I was
and
shocked.
and the part that made me so sad too was when, Sarah was just emphatically trying to be like, "No, I tried to run in. My dad stopped me." And, Auntie went, "Well, you didn't try hard enough." What the hell
Uh-huh.
did you think she was supposed to do? Like,
Yes,
you
I have
hadn't.
that marked right here.
Yeah.
When she was telling her all that, and she said she smiled a sinister smile. Madness is always a wonderful excuse, don't you think, for doing terrible things to other people. There was a little glint in her dark eyes to other people's children. It was sort of like, you did this to me, so I'm going to do this back to you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was so upset about the fact that she could do that to Sarah,
Mhm.
who she knew Sarah's heart.
Yeah. I
You
agree.
know, I
Yeah.
just, uh,
Yeah,
it just
she said she wanted to take everything that Sarah loved.
everything,
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like upset about that. And that brings me to a sad part. I just have to share this. I teared up in this part right here because especially because when we already know that Sarah knows that Martin really was not the one. And it's the part when Martin is found by Lucius. And he's like, "How could you do this?" Because Lucius thinks that he skinned Sarah or whatever. And he said, "It wasn't me," Martin said. But he picked up the gun and turned it around so that it pointed at the middle of his own chest, his thumb resting awkwardly on the trigger. It was Gertie. Martin closed his eyes and pulled the trigger, and he felt himself falling into bed at last, warm and safe beside his darling Sarah. Gertie was down the hall, singing, her voice as high and light as a sparrow's. Sarah pressed her body against his and whispered in his ear, "Isn't it good to be home?" That just touched my heart in such a way it made me so like sad. You know what I'm saying? And then the fact that he had to see his daughter do that. Like all of this came all because of one vengeful person taking it out on the wrong people. I mean, if you think about it, Auntie destroyed her family,
Yes.
destroyed everything that she loved. I
Mhm.
don't know.
And
I don't
even
know.
played tricks with the fox too. That was a really good fake out in the book, is thinking that like the
Yes.
fox was a supernatural entity or had something to do with Gertie's death. And it's like, no, Auntie just literally stole the pellet, cut Gertie's hair, and
Yeah.
hung it up to taunt him. Like
I
that
really
was
wondered
really
about the
good.
fox because was she the fox? I thought Gertie was the fox at the beginning. I
I
thought
don't
that
think
was
she
like a
was.
supernatural twist because of when he looked in her eyes and the redness of the fox, and then
Right.
the thing happens. So I
Right.
almost wonder if Auntie was watching Martin to do that, to put that weirdness, into Martin's mind, kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
I
definitely
don't,
think it was a fake out. I think we were supposed to interpret it that like Martin maybe did accidentally have something to do with it, but the truth was that he was just hunting a regular fox,
right.
and Andy had actually pushed Gertie down a well.
Yeah. I don't know. So what was let's see if anybody wants to weigh in with their I thought when Martin shot the fox was actually Gertie and he had killed her. That's what I thought, especially when he saw her hair in the barn in place of the pelt. And I was surprised that Alice was tied up. I didn't quite understand that. Well, that was Gertie because she wasn't getting paid attention to. Jasmine's going into the irritated part. Auntie irritated me. Halco, yeah, I hated Auntie. I thought Sarah being alive was so long was a good twist. I figured Auntie was alive, but I thought she'd kill Sarah. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I thought Auntie was gone too. I was surprised when Sarah's father turned against Auntie because of the townspeople. Yeah, that was a big surprise too, especially, but I guess not so much considering the time and how women and men's dynamics and the fact that he was pretty much kind of shacking up with her, kind of living kind of a sinful kind of life that would have been frowned upon
Uh-huh.
with the town folk, especially the Reverend. I think that Auntie and the Reverend would have been at odds with one another. And I thought the fox was a hallucination. It was actually Gertie. Sparrows are omens of death, too. And I agree with Faye. And I was surprised it was Auntie who killed Gertie. Yeah, I was. I was very surprised by that. I was just like, I could not imagine being that, like, that is wrath, big time. So what about irritating for you? What was irritating for you?
You know what irritated me. I won't harp on it too much. At first it was Catherine, but I guess if I had to say the character who irritated me the most, because at least Catherine had a part in the resolution of the
Yes,
story,
yes,
it was
yes.
definitely Candace.
Oh yeah, that's what I put,
Candace
Candace.
was horrible.
Also, some of the decisions the characters made at times irritated
Yeah.
me, like not burning the journal pages, not
Yeah.
destroying the wallets or the camera equipment. That kind of
Mhm.
stuff kind of irritated me. But
Mhm.
Candace, that was my first answer, Candace.
Yeah.
I could, and also too, Candace, the narration of Candace, because I listened to this also.
Oh, did
And
you?
yeah, I listened
Oh,
and read, and
okay.
that was like grating. Like she was a grating character.
Well, it's interesting you say that because in my head, that's how she sounded.
Mm-hmm. Oh
So
yeah. Yeah.
accurate.
I'm trying to think. She reminds me of another character um in a movie somehow. I can't place it, but I don't know. Auntie was definitely trying to play the long game here. Yeah, she
Emphasize
was.
on long.
Yeah. Yeah, to hold on to that for that long. And then were any details too obvious?
Okay, so to me, it became obvious pretty early on that Catherine's husband Gary wanted to bring back their son. Like the fact
Mhm.
that that was a revelation to her that, like, oh well, the whole reason he went is because he was trying to find some way to bring back Austin. It's like, well, yeah,
Yeah.
why else would he have gone there? So like
But
that to me, I went,
and I
but
wonder why Gary would keep a secret like that away from Catherine. Is it because Catherine was so like in a state of grief that, until he could be sure he could do it?
well,
Because
she
knowing
asked that question
Catherine's
too.
personality, I would think she'd be on board with it.
Yeah, she asked that question too, and she said in her perspective that she thought that maybe it was Gary wanting to surprise her so that she could just be thrilled at the fact that they were a family again. But he wouldn't have wanted to tell her if he couldn't actually succeed in doing it,
Oh,
maybe.
that's true. Yeah, that's true. I forgot
So
about that.
yeah, not
So Zach
sure.
said, I did just get a book called The Girl from the Well by Rin Chupeco. It was sort of similar theme.
Okay.
Let's take Candace out of the story and put her in another book. Yeah. Yeah.
Just not one that I have to read.
She was kind of given Ann Wilkes vibes. Yeah. And in fact, actually, Candace could have been taken out totally out of the book because there
Yeah.
really wouldn't have
Well,
been a need, don't you think?
then I guess the only thing is McMahon would have had to figure out how to get them to the hole. Like, I guess they
Oh,
could
that's
have.
true. That's true.
I
That's
mean,
true.
they did find the backpack, so if, like, Catherine just, like, walked in on them and was like, "That's Gary's backpack. Let me see the camera."
Yeah, that's
Maybe
true.
they could have
Candace
figured it.
Candace knew where the mom would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would sure hold a grudge. She could sure hold a grudge. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that is pretty much. I do have a couple of just two tidbits. And then if anybody else has any, extra thoughts or anything, or you have any extra thoughts, Alex, why do you think she titled this The Winter People? Who do the Winter People refer to? Do they refer to the sleepers? Do they refer to the caregivers who are taking care of the sleepers, preparing for winter? Who do
I
you?
think it's the sleepers because Gertie, when she's talking about her dreams when they're underneath the covers together, her and Sarah, and she brings up the winter people, she talks about the old woman that she sees in her dreams, and she says that, some of them are just sad and they're lonely, and I think she said that others of them are really angry, but they're the winter people that live in that other place.
Mhm.
Or like I can't remember exactly if she said it was like a place in between, might have been the way that she said it. But that implied to me that it was the sleepers, and Sarah interpreted it that way too because she freaked out, like threw the covers off the bed. It's like, okay, go outside and go find your dad. Like,
Right.
how do you know about that? And I thought that was a good little bit.
Without Candace, would we have Ruth's backstory? It's a good point.
Yeah,
A lot is revealed by Candace.
that's true.
Is the title a reference to waiting for the end of the dark, cold season?
It definitely was a very dreary time. But what did you
Mm-hmm.
think, Kat? What did you think the winter people?
I kind of felt like it was the sleepers,
Okay,
you know.
I agree.
The other thing that I kind of thought about, maybe the reason why and about it being taken place in the winter time, because it's interesting that it's more of a focus in winter, is, animals are always come out more, they don't have as much to nourish them or whatever during the winter months. And they have to rely on going out, elsewhere if they
Mhm.
have to get their food. Um, and I'm wondering if that was also an issue, when if they were trying to feed Gertie something other than a human, you
Mm.
know, that maybe it would get harder and that you run that risk for that. Considering it's the winter people as opposed to just the sleepers or something like that. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
I think it was like a fantastical child's name for what they were. Because the thing I kept wondering about is I was like, who's the blue dog? You know what I mean? That's kind of what that came across to me is it was Gertie's childish flair for something that was so terrifying. It's like, oh, they're just the winter people.
Yeah.
Like they're not
Yeah.
scary, right?
Yeah. So that's how she associated the sleepers,
Yeah.
a nicer way to refer to them.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I thought about just because of folklore February, I think the winter people could fit all the prompts that I had: feast, famine, flora, fauna, because of elements of it. But for me, I thought about famine being really prevalent for this because not only does Gertie always has a hunger, it
Hmm.
seems like, um, so it's almost like she's, in that state. It's like no matter how much she feasts, she's always going to be hungry, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
also, too, for the caregivers, it's like a type of famine in a way, if you think about it, because their lives, if they ever start to want something like their lives, they're not going to be able to ever have a fulfilled life.
Hmm. Yeah, to be consumed by something so completely has to be the most exhausting existence a person could have. To never be able to want or wish for anything else because you know of how important it is. But then even if you wanted to relieve yourself of that burden, you can't trust anybody else to do the job right. You know that you have to do it yourself. And because I can only imagine myself in Ruthie's position. I don't know if
Oh,
you thought about it, but I'm like, I would feel that sense of responsibility and that like nobody else is going to do it right. So I have to sacrifice myself and my
mhm.
happiness.
I could see myself getting very resentful,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
you
Ruthie
know.
was kind of positive about it in the end, which I was kind of surprised by.
I
It's like,
think she is initially because one, her relationship with her mother is different now. She
yeah.
understands her mother. She's
Mhm.
willing to help her mother. She understands that there's a protection for it. But I think there's going to come a time when, Fawn's going to get older.
Mhm.
Ruthie's going to want some other companionship, I would think.
Yeah,
You
is she gonna
know,
tell Buzz? I mean, he'd love that kind of shit. I mean, really, she would have found the right person.
You would
He
have to
loves
be very
aliens.
careful, well, and then also
Yeah.
too, will Catherine come back?
Oh,
Will
yeah.
Catherine ever come back?
Oh, yeah. That's fair.
I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with her situation. Would she ever come back if it got out of hand with Gary?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I have. My last rec is The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. If you like this, you'll like that. And the sleepers were between here and there, just waiting, cold, pale, full of nothing. We're always waiting for spring after winter.
Oh, yeah,
Ooh,
yeah,
I
absolutely
like that,
right.
Angela. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that Ruthie seemed almost happy about her outcome. Yeah, I think that's where her naivete came in.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is my legacy. I am going to do this. But
Like
like,
it's
you're 19
destiny.
years old, right? Like,
Yeah.
you had your world, or you could have gone out. You were looking forward to college. You were looking forward to getting as far away as possible. You didn't like this isolation and being cut off and not having internet and this and that or whatever. And there were times where you didn't even want to care for Fawn.
Yeah.
So how are you going to care for this
Well, she
undead?
stepped up. I mean, because I
She
definitely think
did.
that
She
it
did.
was
But
good in the book, like her relationship with Fawn, it seemed got
oh
stronger
yeah, yeah,
at
yeah,
the
yeah.
end
Well, I
too.
think she realized that. I mean, I think she realized, and that's where you know that she learned a lot from her mom because of how to take care of Fawn. But what I'm saying is, I just, knowing her, a person just doesn't flip like that to be like, oh, I'm going to be so gung ho about this position now. Like, initially you're excited about something, but then when you really have to do it, and it's like, she hasn't really come face to face with Gertie in the sense of having to
Interact with her in
yeah,
any way.
yeah. My random question to you, do you think Fawn has some psychic supernatural abilities? The way she talked to Mimi and Mimi talked back made me curious. Yeah, Alex and I kind of talked about that ahead of time too. I honestly thought Fawn was the connection with Gertie before we found out about Ruthie.
Yeah, it turns out
And
they're not actually
they're
related.
not
It
even
was Ruthie.
related. So I'm just wondering, and I almost wonder too, if the environment, because of the portal, has anything to do with its influence on certain people. Like Fawn's personality and how she's very into nature and she has this imagination. I wonder if she's able to see, things or understand. She seems very intuitive
Yeah,
for a
I
young
agree.
child like
She's
Gertie.
definitely intuitive.
Yeah. I thought of Mimi as a coping mechanism in a way. It's possible. Mimi is 100% alive. Yeah, I feel Ruthie will be singing a different tune in 15 to 20 years. I agree, Jamie. Ruthie really did step up. Maybe the trauma made her grow up as well. Yeah, it's possible. And another reason why I thought Fawn was a parallel to Gertie.
Yeah. Yeah, we had talked about that right before coming on of how
Yeah.
much and they were similar in age.
Mm-hmm.
6 and 8.
Yeah.
That's super close.
Yeah. So now that we've talked about it, are you still giving this a 4?
I'm still giving it a 4. What about you?
Same, same. I'm giving mine a 4. I'm still a solid 4. So anybody that was on the fence, has this conversation changed what you're giving it? Jamie, I know you were kind of teetering. Let us know. We're just curious. Or are you sticking to what you thought? Also, Alicia, I'd love to know, like, do you feel differently about the ending, or after talking about it, are you feeling the same? Just
I'm
curious.
still happy we read this. I mean,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
I'm glad.
I am. I'm glad too. I loved it. I loved it. I mean, a 4-star is not bad to me.
No, it's
Um,
a
and
really good.
actually, sub 3 stars are not bad to me, depending on what type of book it is.
Sure.
If it's just pure entertainment, whatever, I would continue with a series that would be 3 stars. So let's see. Alicia said 3.5 rounded up to 4 on Goodreads. This combo was a 5 though. Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you.
We appreciate
That's so
that.
sweet.
We appreciate that. And Zach said still at 4.25. This was another great book. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that very much. I'm glad. It seemed like we had a good amount of people that enjoyed reading it. I didn't get any negative feedback, which I like that. I mean, people can have their opinions, obviously. Jamie says, I'm thinking I'll go right in between and say 4.25. I really enjoyed it. Nice. Angel said, I give it a 4. I finished. Woo!
Yay!
We're so
Good
excited.
job.
Angela said it's still a 4. I enjoyed this book very much. Very entertaining. Jasmine said solid 4 for me. And Angel said I really did like it. Okay, so the next 2 months, we are going to be changing and switching gears because we are going down a different type of rabbit hole. Alex and I are reading a book that is out of our comfort zone.
Very, very much so.
So we will be reading The Spell Shop by
yes.
Sarah Beth Durst. I love this cover. It's a beautiful book, honestly.
It is. And
So,
I picked that out because it was a recommendation at Powell's. So The Winter People is one of Kat's books that she had on her shelf that I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. So I got a copy. And then that was one of the books that I had a copy of, and Kat said, we'll give it a shot.
Yes,
And,
well, I saw this
yeah.
on Goodreads. It was advertised on Goodreads, and I was like, that cover is beautiful. I really want to read it. But I just couldn't bring myself to buy it. I was like,
Yeah.
it's not my normal stuff, but I really want to read it. And Alicia read it and she liked it. And I was like, well, maybe. Well, when you put it on the list, I'm like, yes, this will give me a good excuse to get the book.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, because we're really hoping we can continue this streak of us enjoying all these books. So the Spell Shop is really going to be the deciding factor of that.
Yeah, because I feel I have enjoyed all of our books that we've read so far. And I don't think we've had anything below a 4, have we?
We haven't. So if we go below that, the next time you can blame me.
No, I wouldn't blame you because I did want to read it. So for sure. Jamie said, also out of my comfort zone. And I already have it reserved from the library. Very excited. And Zach's like, woohoo. And I will save what I rated it for next time. The cover really is pretty. Yes, because Alicia read it. When she read it, that entice me to want to read it even more.
Oh, okay.
I will tell you that for Old School April, I mentioned, Kelsey asked about book club reads. And at first I didn't mention ours because it's fantasy. It's not old school in the sense of nostalgia or whatever. Right. And Kelsey said it didn't matter. If it's a book club rec from a host, that we could count it for points. So I don't know. I don't know. But just for those of you that are participating in Old School April, just know if you read it, it's supposed to. I mean, I'll verify to make sure I see that somewhere. She has all kinds of prompts and everything. And Angela said, oh, I like cottagecore stuff, but not so much romance. Yeah, I don't know how heavy on the romance it is. I will tell you.
It's light.
I'm hoping it's going to be something that's not as spicy.
I thought you were about to say smutty.
Yeah. Smutty, spicy as the games gods play. That's all I'm going to say because I don't know if my heart can handle it within the same couple of weeks. I'm telling you. You were definitely in a roll, though. Nothing less than 4 for me. Yay! It was also out of my norm. I don't know what made me pick it up. Probably the cover. I think the cover is beautiful.
It is.
And there's a second book coming out with a little cute cat on the cover. And nice. Double points hype. And it's a light romance, no sauce. Woo!
Oh, good.
So we might be spared.
Woo woo.
Okay, and I don't mind a romance if the bigger picture is something pretty exciting and going
Yeah,
on or whatever, and the
I
romance
agree.
happens to be inserted there, I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, me too.
So, any final words from you, Alex? And yeah, Kat, you've been crushing on the Hades dude. Yeah. Now, I will tell you, Hades is fine in this book.
Should I read it? Is
I'm
this
just
a
saying he is fine. The man who comes to mind, the people in this chat are sick of me talking about this man. Hades in this book, my actor is Theo James.
okay?
If you don't know who Theo James is, look him up.
Yeah, give me
He
a
is
second.
sexy as hell.
Okay.
He's
Theo
he's hot.
James.
He's hot as hell.
Oh, I know him. Yes.
Oh, that's who I'm thinking of it with
Okay.
Hades.
Okay.
Every time in my imagination and all the things, all the nasty, naughty things he was saying. Not really nasty, but his naughty, flirtatious things. I'm like, oh, I could see Theo James saying that.
Oh!
I could so see that.
This is great. I'm finding out a new side about
Yeah.
Kat.
Yeah, I don't know. This is not going to be something I'm going to be reading quite often. Don't worry.
I'm not worried.
I had no idea it was going to have the spice factor in it. And Jasmine's a tasteful romance. That's right. That's what the spell shop's going to be. And yeah, Alicia's laughing at me because she knows I'm not spicy. And oh my goodness, Kat. Yeah, I know. But Angela says he is a hottie. I mean, what can I
He
say?
cutie
He
patootie.
is. He's very cute. And if you've seen that Netflix show with him where it's like a drug thing, I think it's called The Gentleman or something like that. And he's in the military and he has to come back and he finds out his dad has sold property, like sold a part of his property or is renting a part of the property for this big marijuana growing thing. It's really action packed and kind of mafia vibe kind of thing. But Theo James is like appalled. It gets drawn into this like criminal activity or whatever. But he's hot in that too. Just saying. I'm just saying. And I can bring enough filth for everyone. Oh, and he is
Zach will dish it out.
he's in the new Monkey movie.
Yes, he is. He's the main
Now
lead.
I definitely have to go see the Monkey movie for that. And yeah, Alicia, I can't wait to see that. Okay, so Alex, you're sprinting tomorrow?
I am, yes.
Okay. So
I
Alex
am.
is sprinting tomorrow if anybody's looking for sprints. I am
5 p.m.
sprinting.
Eastern Standard Time.
You're what?
5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on
Yes,
Friday.
5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am sprinting tomorrow also. I'm starting at 2 o'clock and probably go until about 5 because I know you have sprints. It's the last day of February, which means it's the last day of Folklore February.
Very
so
important.
anyway, yeah, so I am going to start at 2 and just go for a couple of hours to wrap it up and to read my 2 picture books that I need to read to finish my readathon. Try to read Pay the Piper. Not sure if I'll finish it, but we'll see. So yeah.
I guess my only last comments are just to say thanks to everybody who always joins us for these. It's like so cool that you all keep coming back. It means the world that you love to be a part of these because we love to have you. So
I second that. And thank you so much, Halco. We appreciate that. And I'll try to pop in when I get home. Great discussion. Thank you, Alicia. We appreciate it. We appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. We hope you'll join us for the spell shop. And until we see you again, y'all need to stay amazing because y'all are amazing. Stay amazing. Be adventurous, but be safe in your adventures. I don't want any, unsafe adventures out there because we want you to come back. And Linda says, bye, everyone. So on that note, we will bid y'all adieu.
Bye.
Bye.